Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to GOATQuest and our Super Bowl preview episode. Lots has gone on, and I don't have my compatriot in the building with me. I'm going to be bringing in a special guest, but ruthless, toothless Tommy Beer is on the golf course somewhere in Florida, probably alligator infested, definitely the weirdo Florida vibe as far as conversations I had with him going down there. I think it's probably a significant amount of white trash flowing around golf courses doing all manner of debaucherous things, but it's going to lead to a Super Bowl party at some point. So hopefully he gives us the post-game details of all the madness that went on in the swamp state of Florida. So Tom's out. Johnny is on the injured reserve. So Johnny Dangerously, our normal producer, is on the injured reserve. He's got a groin injury. And that brings Wham Bam Thank You Cam into the booth behind the glass. He's going to be running the show, switching the boards, keeping me between the lines, and my guest as well. So Super Bowl preview. This one is going to focus a lot on the gambling side of things. You have a Super Bowl party. You get the snacks. You're ready for the commercials. Usually you got some fans that are half-ass, candy-ass, all sorts of ass in a can, and it's distracting, and it can be a real pain in the ass to watch a Super Bowl in a Super Bowl party atmosphere. The only thing that saves it is that you've got this myriad schedule of bets, this menu of parlays and first commercial and what with the coin toss and, you know, was somebody parachute into the stadium and break an ankle? Anything you can conceive betting on. The depravity of American pastimes has facilitated that for you in the electronic world of gambling today. It has taken over, and we are no different. GOATQuest will prostitute itself at the altar of commercialism. We're here to do it for you, and we want you to be victorious. We want you to be on the plus side of this agenda and the gambling world, because the game itself is a bit of a redundancy. I don't want to say that it won't be wonderfully exciting, because the first version of this game was a down-to-the-wire battle that had all the ingredients that you want. It had the scoring. It had the big defensive plays. It had star power. But when you're seeing the same game again that you just saw 2 years ago, there is, and this has constituted itself statistically in the ticket value, as you've seen them plummet here before game time, that there is some burnout on whether it be the Chiefs three-peat or just I've seen this game 2 years ago. There is some burnout being felt by American audiences that are looking at ticket prices, and we'll see if it hits the television ratings as well. I have a feeling it won't hit the ratings because, again, 38-35 2 years ago, Mahomes has got a lead, a drive. We'll get into the highly controversial call that allowed them to put the ball through the uprights with almost no time remaining. I think they would have got that field goal anyway based on field position. But we'll run that back in those events because obviously Roger Goodell has had to answer some serious questions about what fans feel is a advantage to the Kansas City Chiefs as far as officiating has been concerned across this season and, quite frankly, throughout their three-peat run. I've seen numbers ranging from they've got 70-something penalties in their favor and have only had 40 called against them up to this point in the season, and it's been even worse in past seasons as far as being lopsided. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But who are we going to talk about this stuff with? We're also going to talk about the Doncic trade, the Lakers and the Dallas Mavericks and the revolt in Dallas. So we got a lot to unpack with a guy who I have known for almost 48 years. How does such a young man know someone for 48 years? Because when he was born, I went to the hospital and my parents got to hand me this card that I held up to the window when I was 3 years and 10 months old. And they brought this little bundle of joy out of some kind of incubator tube machine and showed him to me at the window. At 3 years and 10 months, I remember this. I remember the little blue card that had a blue bunny on it for a boy with his name on it that I had to hold to the glass to see this fantastic adult that he has become. Parlay Paddy, Patrick Goff, my brother, from Chicago, Illinois, the home of Al Capone and all things racketeering. Let's bring Patrick Goff on the screen. Parlay Paddy, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Joe, and it's a really the honor of a lifetime to be on your show.
A lifetime.
And they knew even back then in those early, the early days of my life,
the early hours,
what my calling would be, because that blue card said Parlay Paddy. They knew that I was destined to be a degenerate gambler. Also, I wanted to let you know, Tom texted me, and he got a really good rate at Mar-a-Lago, and he said it's a beautiful place, and he's really enjoying his time there.
Is he in custody yet?
No. He just took his teeth out, and he was just big enough and white enough to be accepted there and
Pasty white,
be celebrated. And I'm happy to be just another middle-aged white on this show. The most diverse show in podcasting.
It really is. It really is. From the Detroit and Kentucky bourbon that we drink to the Diet Cokes that we crack.
Have yourself a little taste.
Yeah, we're getting right into it. We're mixing it up. So
yeah, no, it is. It's a pleasure to be on. Thanks so much.
So you are coming to us from Chicago, which is arguably the capital of mysterious mob-related, gambling-infused action, right? I mean, this is a town known for action. Las Vegas is number one. Las Vegas is certainly number one. But Chicago is pretty much a strong two for weird shit that has a little bit of a criminal tinge, but at the same time, now fully accepted by Americans.
Yeah, it's a city on the edge. It's the city of broad shoulders. I mean, from Alphonse Capone all the way to Dave Matthews dumping his shit from his RV in the river. I mean, wild stuff happens in this city. It's nice. It's very cold and deeply gray these days. But you're right. There's nefarious goings on, and gambling is definitely one of them. We've got a casino downtown now, Bally's. It's a bummer. They're, obviously they have plans for something bigger. And once they got their license, they just kind of dumped it into an odd building downtown. And yeah, sports gambling is celebrated here. It is. I don't know if all states are like this, but you can't bet Illinois college teams on the sites. Like, I can't bet a Northwestern or a Illinois game. Not like I'm stoked to do that, but every once in a while I'll go on the app, and it's an oddity and kind of a bummer. But yeah, we get down, and I particularly almost exclusively bet football. The vast majority of that is pro, and the vast majority of that is parlays. And so it's good to be on this. I hope to try and help people win a little money, but I am no means an expert. I'm an asshole like everybody else. I'm probably about just under 50% on the year, which is never great. But
don't sell yourself short. You're a much higher grade asshole than the average asshole.
Thank you. Yeah, I have my moments. And I appreciate you doxing my age right out of the gates on the show, too. I forgot about that.
Nice.
Thanks for laying that out. But I just want to make that clear. Like, I have my 5 kind of tenets of how I build a parlay and why I build it the way I do. It's not wildly successful, but recently, and I sent you the 3 screenshots of the 3 parlays.
Yeah, he did prove. He proved there was proof of life on the excellence that he has acquired within this system that he is going to divulge a portion of to you. This is his stock and trade, right? This is like a lawyer. Yeah. Lawyers don't give out free advice for very long, right? So we're going to allow him to tease you with some action, and hopefully if you cash in, then maybe he turns a business into this whole thing, because it's pretty obvious that he's got actionable insights for you today.
Yeah, but tail me at your own peril. We're going to be doing some incredibly aggressive betting today, because this is the end, baby. The fucking party's over. This is it. Let's empty the coffers. Let's get after it. It's going to be roughly 214 days until the next NFL game. I think it was around September 11th last year. College football season kicks off around Saturday, August 23rd. So shit's about to get real dark. So let's get in where we fit in. Let's get our last licks and let's go.
Commonly referred to as the long black veil of mourning, the period of time between football games. So thank you for preparing us for that grief-stricken period of time. I do want to rewind back to what you said about the percentages of these parlays and the disclaimer that, don't hold my foot to the flame on this. I'm just putting this system together. A lot of disclaimers, a lot of backpedaling, a lot of uneasy ground already for us to stand on. I want audiences to know I've got his phone number, I've got his address, I've got all of his socials. So if he costs you money, don't worry, you're going to have your retribution.
Yeah, I'm easy to find. Okay, so let's jump into this real quick. Okay, so we have
by all means take over the show. Okay. Thank you.
So we have our 5 tenets of how to build a successful parlay. Again, the first one, this may be redundant after we just said, I call it DBA, which means don't be an asshole. Okay, bet what you can afford to lose because these are most certainly going to lose. Okay?
Tom's already out. DB, you started it. Tom Beard's already out of this equation.
Sorry, Tom. Okay, don't be an asshole, number 1. Number 2, embrace the narrative. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in just a second.
Tom doesn't know what narrative is. He's out on number 2 as well.
Number 3, contingency. Do your bets work even if your narrative fails? He'll get this one. No unders. Unders kill parlays early. You want to be in it till the end. We don't fucking do unders here. Even if they are lock bets, we don't do it.
We don't do
number 5. Yeah. And number 5, have a goal. Okay. Again, we're going after it. This is the last time to get our ass in gear. My goal for us, for my Super Bowl bets, is $10,000.
And your goal, when you say goal, do you mean also like in the leather ass version of gambling in Vegas that you got to have a win limit and a loss limit? You don't want to go out over your skis. You got to know how much you want to win out of this so that you don't put yourself in peril after having a good run. Now, I know this is one game, but I'm talking about if you were doing a weekend or a week's worth of these.
Sure. Your goal is personal to you. Again, you're not being an asshole. You're not betting more than you can afford to lose. You'll see the number I have. My investment is going to be roughly $220. Okay. Not a lot of money to some, but I think that's a relatively conservative bank to be working off of. Okay.
Tom's in his goal, in his vision board, his dream board, I'm pretty sure he wants to lose another 12 to 15 pounds. What kind of stress could he build up in these types of betting atmospheres to help reduce his weight or increase his weight loss, I should say?
His head alone weighs 65 pounds.
Well, he can't unburden himself of any gray matter or we're going to be talking to a stump over here on the other side of me.
Okay. So if we're just keep hammering on Tom, I just got to keep that in the back of my mind.
I'll back your mind. When you don't show and you go golfing, you're fully vulnerable to all attacks.
All right, so fuck Tom. Now let's go into it again. Quick recap. Don't be an asshole. Embrace the narrative. Contingency, no unders, and our goal is 10K. Now the narrative I have built, and this is a complete flip flop from what I gave to you in our conversation last week when we were just shooting the shit talking about the Super Bowl. I went into the room of silence where Aaron Rodgers spent that weekend. The dark and silent chamber.
Ayahuasca or no ayahuasca?
No ayahuasca.
Okay.
And I came out of it with the Eagles leaning on the run heavily in the first half. Okay, a combination of Barkley, tush push, all the things that have gotten them to this point. That leads to a couple of Saquon scores early. They get out ahead. They kind of bum rush the Chiefs. This is kind of the Chiefs' MO to a degree in the playoffs. But a dinged up offensive line leads to Jalen Hurts taking a couple of shots. He's already kind of dinged up too. You got to love the quick sidebar. You got to love all the injury reports. Like everybody's good to go. Like there's nobody, nobody questionable. Guys, I'm sure were just walking into trainers' rooms going, "Fuck you, pay me. I'm going in." I don't care.
You've already made some interesting points that I want to touch on. So I'm gonna pump the brakes on you. I know you got a roll here, but I'm gonna pump the brakes on you. The last version of this game, and this is what I find interesting about the way you've portrayed this, very similar. Like it was more of a controlled passing game. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Gainwell. This is a different version of the Eagles with Saquon Barkley. Quite frankly, it's why they made the move. When you rewind the Super Bowl the last time around, the only player-to-player that the Philadelphia Eagles didn't win in that game, when you look at it statistically, is Isaiah Pacheco outgained the running backs for Philadelphia significantly. He scored a touchdown. He had 75 yards rushing, but the Eagles still jumped out early. If you remember, they had a 10-point lead at the half of that game. And really, if Nick Bolton doesn't scoop and score, that game's 24-7 at the half. So
correct.
You're saying that much like the last time out, we're going to see a reboot in the first half, except instead of the controlled passing game that Hurts unleashed, you're going to get a more steady diet of Saquon Barkley.
Correct. That's what I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be dominant rush through the first half, and it'll be successful. Now, what's interesting about what you just said, that first Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts was outstanding.
4 touchdowns. Threw for over 300 yards. If he doesn't mysteriously, for some reason, drop the ball while switching arms with it, that was a non-contact fumble. He just switched arms, dropped it, and Bolton goes 36 yards to the house, or that game's out of hand at the half.
This leads directly into the rest of my narrative, though. He is not the same guy. He's not the same quarterback. He's not nearly as good overall. I think injuries have caught up to him, which he's dealing with right now. So I think, just like what you just said, there will be another costly turnover, okay? And there will be that moment where you're like, fuck, here they come, and the Chiefs. And I think the Eagles will blink. I just think the pressure is too much. This is their second chance at it. There's even more pressure. The Chiefs don't have a thing in the world to worry about, and Andy Reid's had 2 weeks to prepare. It's just going to be too much. So the Chiefs do what they do. Mahomes attacks the middle of the field. Reid dials up the perfect call at just the right time. So they score pretty much at will following this early barrage. Spags setting timely blitzes, disguising coverage, confusing Hurts, limiting Philly explosives. And in the second half, we get more of the same. Hurts pressing to keep pace, putting the ball in harm's way while the Chiefs use Mahomes' legs, next level football IQ to sustain long drives, grind out that clock, and do what they fucking always do. They're going to prove that they are like Thanos. The Chiefs are inevitable. It's going to happen. That roster in Philadelphia
let me play devil's
is clearly better, but it's going to happen.
The devil's advocate response to that diatribe is that...
Fuck Tom Beer, too.
Well, thank you. The more appropriate comment to begin this with, certainly. The upgrade to Saquon Barkley works in more than just the individual performance factor. The upgrade to Saquon Barkley changes the game from a time of possession standpoint. If you've watched this guy throughout the season and throughout his career, he is extraordinarily adept at knowing down and distance and getting to the marker. This guy picks up first downs. They didn't have anybody like that the first time around. And they really haven't had anybody like that since LaShawn McCoy, right? Mm-hmm. So the Philadelphia Eagles upgrade to Saquon Barkley is going to change the dynamic from a ball possession standpoint for them. When you couple that with Jalen Hurts' ability to do it on his own with his feet, and maybe the best receiver tandem, A.J. Brown's just a little bit longer in the tooth than I would like him to be, but probably the best receiving tandem in the NFL this year. Even Dallas Goedert, even at the tight end position in the last time around when they ran this Super Bowl back 2 years ago in Super Bowl 57, Kelsey did not outperform Goedert by very much. It was like 1 catch and 7 yards. Both receivers outgained them the last time around. Although McDuffie is one of the best corners in the league, I don't think that they upgraded on the defensive backfield side, whereas the 2 rookies for Philadelphia, if they think they're getting the little holding call on James Bradbury, hey, Bradbury's been on the IR all year. This is Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and Darius Slay back there now.
Yep.
I think the makeup of the defensive backfield, the amazing performance of Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Cooper DeJean's a second-round pick. Though, I mean, everybody said, oh, well, the Lions, Terry and Arnold and Rakestraw, two great, well, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean are starting in the Super Bowl. So there's your best draft picks. You know, again, Howie Roseman, as much as I love Brad Holmes and think that he's Darth Vader, Roseman outdid him in this draft. I mean, it's on the field right now in the Super Bowl.
Roseman's been incredible. Like, you know, just a wizard with what he's been able to build and continues to build. I don't know, like, you're right. In any other era, Brad Holmes is, you know, without a doubt, the one we all look at going, man, how is he doing this? But Howie Roseman's in the league, and it's awesome. You make a bunch of good points. What I would say to that is the third tenet of how we build these parlays: do your bets, even if the narrative fails and what you say happens, and you'll see. I have a couple of things you addressed directly. We still fucking win. You know, in general,
I love that.
In general, what I would say is Saquon Barkley's effectiveness is going to be greatly diminished if they're down 10 in the fourth quarter. And those rookies, you're right, have been outstanding. But they're rookies, and they're playing Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid with 2 weeks to prepare. I think, you know, it's just, and it'll be maddening. It'll be Samjay Pirine out of the backfield for a 35-yard touchdown, you know, on a post route. He'll be spreading it to dudes. Hopkins will have a 30-yard touchdown or reverse for a touchdown. It's the dark magic they deal in. So that's the narrative I'm going to go with.
That's the one. This will play to our GOAT list later when we talk about great trades in the history of sports. But that's the one I was hoping you were going to bring up, because if I had to flip the hat around and be my Chiefs fan, I would start out 100% with the greatest advantage that maybe any team has ever had in a Super Bowl. But digest this for a second. In the history of the Super Bowl, I do not believe, here's my bold take, that there has ever been a disparity between head coaching excellence as there is between Andy Reid and Nick Sirianni. I believe that Sirianni is a pedestrian head coach. I think maybe slightly above average, but a pedestrian head coach in the NFL. Now, he went out and did the smart thing and got Fangio. So now Fangio versus Spagnuolo is the greatest two defensive coordinators maybe who have gone on the field against each other since Buddy Ryan was in the league.
I know he was on inferior teams, but Fangio's 0-8 against Pat Mahomes. He has never beaten him.
It's a very good point that nobody's talking about, by the way.
In his defense, I'm sure there's plenty of coordinators who haven't beat him as well. But 0-8's a shitty number.
It's like that stat when they throw up some coach's record against Nick Saban.
Yeah, exactly.
He was coaching Memphis the first 3 times he played Alabama.
I think you're right about Sirianni, but his record is absurdly good. He's like the third best coach of all time through as many games as he's coached. He walked into a good situation. I think he's a goof. I think his biggest flaw, especially in the Super Bowl, is I think his temperament is hot garbage, whereas Andy Reid, like, you know, looks like he's waiting in line at Chili's.
Well, his pulse isn't going to get over 125, right? I mean,
no, he's Lecter. He's Lecter in the back of that ambulance when he's escaping. All right, can we get into this? I'm chomping at the bit. Can we get into the legs of these parlays?
Yeah, but I'll say one more. I'll say one more thing. Remember, they got Hopkins from the Tennessee Titans. It's a 4th-round pick, could be a 5th, depending on the way the season ends here. He's 3-time Pro Bowler. He went 56 catches, 610 yards, 5 touchdowns, 11 yards per catch. Hopkins could be the game changer. Just plant that in the back of your mind.
Dude, anybody could be the game. Noah Gray could catch 2 touchdowns, dude. That's the thing that sucks. That's the inevitability. You know, this Super Bowl, thank God for gambling, because this is going to be just a fucking rehash. And it's, you know, I hope neither team wins, but since they gotta, I'm going to try to fill my pockets.
That's the greatest take you've made so far. many of us hope that neither team wins, that this game somehow ends in a cosmic tie and both teams have to go to the locker room with a bad taste in their mouth. I don't think anybody outside of Philadelphia and Kansas City, any general football fan, wants to see either one of these teams win with any kind of gusto.
No, it's a bummer. You ready?
Fire away, Kimosabi.
Okay, all of these odds are via DraftKings. That's just the app I use. You'll see different numbers all over the place as of yesterday. I'm going to give you 3 different types of parlays: a TD scorer parlay, a traditional parlay, and what I call a scratch off. Now, for the TD scorer parlay, again, we are being incredibly aggressive here. All right, building off our narrative, I have Saquon Barkley scoring 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl, plus 295, parlayed with Xavier Worthy to score a touchdown, plus 165. Patrick Mahomes to score a touchdown, plus 310. Keep in mind, he scored 2 rushing touchdowns 2 weeks ago. And the last leg is the aforementioned Goddard at plus 290. I think Goddard's going to be the linchpin of this whole thing for the Eagles, and he's going to get fed. So that bet, real quick, that is Barkley for 2, Worthy, Mahomes, and Goddard all to score 1. That gives us 4 legs plus 18,000. A $20 bet pays $3,620.
Ooh, 3,600 beans. That would look good in Daddy's account on a deposit slip.
It's gonna look good. How do you feel about that?
I think it's a reach, but every good parlay that pays big money odds has reach components. What do I think is the biggest reach out of it? I probably would put Goddard's touchdown as the biggest reach out of there. But could Goddard score a touchdown in this game? 100%. So all the legs have validity, which is important to me in the construction of any parlay. I don't want any legs in my parlay to be like, holy shit, that would be a miracle if that happened. Once you start playing in those conversations, like I'm not playing Jared Goff to score a touchdown, even though Jared Goff scored touchdowns this year.
Yeah. Okay, now our traditional parlay. Okay, again, this is anarchy. I'm an agent of chaos. This is a dumb bet, but it makes sense building off of the narrative we just talked about. We'll call the first 6 legs of this 9-leg parlay.
A 9-leg parlay is already.
Shut your mouth. Fuck Tom Beer. Okay, now
although Beer would play this one for sure.
The first 6 legs of this 9-leg parlay we'll call 1-unit plays. I feel are locks in my mind. The other 3 we'll call half-unit plays. This is a 9-leg parlay plus 4,500. That gives us a $200 bet on a 9-leg parlay to win $9,200.
Oh my God! Put $5 on this,
is the
please.
goal. 10K
Just play
is the goal.
$5 or $10.
Okay.
At the most.
The 1-unit
Audience.
plays, the first 6 legs of this parlay. Patrick Mahomes 6+ rushing attempts at minus 141.
Any visibly sharts at some point in the second quarter?
Who sharded for the Lions?
I can't remember, but there was a visible shart.
At the end? Yeah, he shit in the white. In
offensive
the white,
lineman
in the
too.
white uniform.
Checking for urine on offensive linemen at some point during the game. Yeah, there's some disgusting props out there.
Mahomes 6+ rushing attempts minus 141 versus the Bills. Mahomes rushed 11 times for 43 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mahomes rushed for at least 44 yards in his last 2 Super Bowls, albeit one was the overtime victory against the Niners. Tying directly into that, Mahomes rushing 25 yards or more at 167. His career playoff average is 31 yards. The Eagles' D will flush him from the pocket a few times, in addition to some designed runs. 40+ yards, you can get plus 134. The only reason I didn't go that high is because I think he'll be right around that number, and he'll be kneeling late. And those kneel downs, I didn't want to fucking completely destroy my heart at the end of that. At the end of that
Savvy call out on those losses late in the game.
Yeah. Okay. So we got Mahomes 6 attempts, Mahomes 25 yards or more. Goddard receptions 5+, minus 143. Again, I think he's not only going to be a big part of this offense, how they are going to operate normally when they're down late. He's going to be in the middle of the field catching dump offs, catching short yard stuff when they're checking down, because I don't think Jalen Hurts has the stones to get this done. Also, Goddard yards over 52.5 at minus 110. He's cleared that 3 of the last 4 games with 85 yards last week. Dalton Schultz's dirty ass went for 63 on KC, and Goddard had 60 yards in the last Super Bowl.
Strong play. And keep in mind, Jalen Hurts did spend one glorious year at the University of Oklahoma, so he's got stones. Don't underestimate Sooner magic.
Disregarded. The next leg, so that'll be our 5th, Kansas City over 24.5 total points at minus 105. Andy Reid with two weeks to prepare. I'm not going to stop saying it. They scored 38 on the Eagles the last time they met in the Super Bowl. Mahomes is over this total in 14 of 20 career playoff games, and they averaged 29.7 points per game in the playoffs.
They really scored 31. Their defense scored a touchdown last time around, but I'm with you.
That's a good point. Good point. The last, you already talked about it, Cooper DeJean, over 4.5 tackles and assists, minus 139. I think this might be you might just want to take all your money and just put it on that. Listen to this. The Eagles play nickel 82% of the time. This is about since week 6. He'll probably be on Kelsey in the slot.
Because he's so damn good.
Listen, he'll probably be on Kelsey in the slot. He's gone over this total in 5 straight and 9 of 10. During that 5-game stretch, he's averaging 7.2 tackles and assists. All we need is 4.5.
The Cooper DeJean experience that we are going through for his rookie year as a second-round pick, to me, might manifest itself most impactfully with those Patrick Mahomes runs that you're hoping for. That's the part that I would worry about if I was putting money on Patrick Mahomes' yardage, is that Cooper DeJean is sitting there floating around in that nickel spot. He is a line of scrimmage hitter. I mean, this guy comes up and hits you at the line of scrimmage. And I think that Fangio, and I'm just going to play this out because I had a little dream scenario. I think that Fangio is going to make the decision because of what you said. He has a as dismal a record as you can possibly have against Patrick Mahomes. What if Fangio just says, you know what, Cooper? Let's take a 15-yard penalty in the first quarter and smoke Patrick Mahomes on whatever from that safety blitz.
You know what? And he is a big hitter. Mahomes doesn't get hurt and doesn't blink, though. He doesn't get hurt. I was going to say this till later. This blew my mind.
Does anybody have the guts? Does anybody have the guts, though, to take a penalty on him? To really go out there and say, I'm taking a 15-yarder. This is not
He won't let him. He's too slinky. He'll go down. He'll get out of bounds. People have tried this before. He's 17-3 in the playoffs, okay? Brady had 35 wins. Brady retired at 45. If Mahomes keeps this up, he's only 29. He could play for another 16 years.
Yeah, that's
what his numbers are going to look like if he plays for another 16 years. You know, he's one of those guys. He's like Duvall in Apocalypse Now. You know, you're just looking at him. You know, nothing. He's never going to get caught by a bullet. There's just something about him.
That was Colonel Kilgore.
Correct.
Kilgore's cavalry. Yeah.
Okay, so
napalm in the morning.
The 6 1-unit plays we just talked about. Let's call this the Tom Beers a Pussy bet. If you just wanted to play those,
I like this bet already.
6 legs plus 800, $100 to win $900. And I think all of those legs, at least in my mind, again, building off the narrative, which you got to have a narrative. If you're just picking willy-nilly, you just pick 5 numbers.
Give me the legs real quick, one more time. Hit them quick.
Mahomes rushing attempts, 6. Mahomes rushing yards, 25 plus. Again, even if Goddard blows him up, I think, or DeJean blows him up, I think he can get 25. Goddard, 5 receptions and 52.5 yards. Kansas City
6 in the last Super Bowl.
Kansas City over 24.5 total points, and DeJean over 4.5 tackles and assists.
I like that.
So
that to me so far is the most rock solid fundamentally.
Okay, so you can bet that with Tom Beer the Pussy. You can be.
I'm going to jump in. I'm going to jump in now. Okay, I'm going to let you finish, but I'm going to jump in now. Who's going to win the coin toss?
What? Tails.
It's going to be tails. What will the first play of the game be? Run, pass, sack?
Run.
It's going to be a run. Will it be plus yardage or negative yardage?
Plus, but just barely.
Will either team score on their first drive, first possession?
Yes.
Which one of them will score the first one, and will it be a touchdown or a field goal?
It'll be the Eagles, and it'll be a touchdown.
It'll be a touchdown. At the end of the first quarter, is it possible for this game to be 0-0?
No.
Will either team score 3 consecutive times during the game?
Yes. It'll be the Chiefs.
Which one? It'll be the Chiefs. Who will have more quarterback sacks in the game, Chiefs or Eagles?
Weirdly, I think it's going to be the Chiefs.
How about between Nolan Smith and Karlaftis? Which one will have more sacks?
Karlaftis.
That's where I want to break. Karlaftis and his...
Because of that dinged-up offensive line.
His dominance. Karlaftis, very quietly, while Chris Jones just does what he does, takes on the double team, makes big plays when you need him, just steady as she comes, one of the best football players in the National Football League, maybe when it's all said and done, one of the best at his position ever. On the other side, Karlaftis and his dominance that people are not talking about, and Bolton, who made the big scoop and score 2 years ago, but has been annihilating people this year. Bolton and Karlaftis play with that kind of like 1980s Raiders. Yeah. F you, I'm going to punch. I mean, they are dirty and nasty, and I love it. The one thing, the thing that makes me root for the Chiefs, even when Mahomes is getting garbage calls from the referees, when he's throwing himself out of bounds, trying to win an Academy Award, the Chiefs' defensive front seven and the nastiness that Spagnuolo has. This is not the team that people portray them to be. Oh, we're all offensive firepower.
No.
And I hear people say, "Oh, the defense is bend but don't break. They're weak against the run." That you know what that defense is, Patrick? It is whatever it needs to be at that moment in a game. You 100%. Need them to make a stop on fourth down, they make a stop on fourth down. You need them to stop the quarterback from scrambling, they stop the quarterback from scrambling. They got some guys that are filthy, nasty gutter rats that'll smoke you in a moment's notice.
Yeah, Karlaftis in particular is not, I think a lot of his, under the radar stature has to do with the fact that he's not long and bendy. He's not sexy. You know what I mean? He's not that.
Oh, he's a Purdue Boilermaker. That's all you need to know about how unsexy he is.
He's a thick bitch, and he's got a motor, and he doesn't. His sack numbers aren't outrageous, but he just punishes tackles and blocking backs. I think he's great, and I think he's going to have a nice game.
Okay, back to your picks. What did you have left?
Okay, we have 3 left for our 9-leg parlay. Again, these are the half unit plays. Jake Elliott, Eagles kicker, 6+ points. I think even if our narrative gets busted out and the Eagles, make the magic happen, 3 extra points and a field goal, if it's not going their way, 2 field goals, he's beat that number in the last 7 games straight.
Got it.
Xavier Worthy rushing over 5.5 yards, -119.
Just cleared this sweep.
Cleared this rushing number in 4 of the last 6 games. Again, with that interior of Philadelphia, Jalen Carter especially, but I think they're going to dial up 2-3 jet sweeps, reverses, things to beat to the outside with his speed. I think 5.5 is all we need. Is one of those to work, relatively well. It's almost kind of, if he clears the line of scrimmage, that 5.5 is good, and I'm good with that number. And now the last one, super meat and potatoes. Saquon Barkley rushing over 110 yards is at -125. He's cleared that in 8 of his last 10. And whether it's them boat racing the commies, he had 15 for 118, or a competitive game like the Rams, he had 26 for 205. I just think he'll get there either way, win or lose.
I like it. I'm going to throw in there, if you're an Eagles fan, if you're playing the fly, Eagles fly, then I would look really strongly at what happens if Spagnuolo decides to double down on the run, and then you're going to have big numbers for Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, because I don't think that the Chiefs are going to stop the Eagles. They might outscore the Eagles to all the points that you made. I don't think they're going to stop them. You look at A.J. Brown's numbers, 67 catches, over 1,000 yards. Devontae goes 68 for 833 yards. They're both over 12 yards a catch. Jalen Hurts' QBR is 10th in the league this year. He will be able to distribute the football.
That is a good narrative. It's not the one I've chosen. I just feel like Spagnuolo, again, is going to confuse him. I feel like he can be confused. I feel like although he hasn't thrown a pick yet in the postseason, I think it's been a minute. He's been very good about that this year. I think he's going to turn the ball over.
Who's going to win the MVP?
Mahomes. He's 3 for 3, isn't he?
Paddy, Parlay, there's there a conspiracy here? Parlay Paddy picks Paddy Mahomes.
I don't like him. I don't like he
some
sounds
kind
like
of
Kermit the Frog.
affinity
He
club
sounds like either
Patrick's?
he sounds like either Kermit the Frog or Danny McBride from Eastbound and Down, depending on who you ask.
You know, it's also very appropriate. The two Patricks, you're calling him for the Parlay Paddy picks Patrick Mahomes, which is a tongue twister unto itself. But you know what today is?
No.
Shamrock Shake Day. It comes out at McDonald's today.
Holy shit.
Shamrock Shake, Patty, the whole thing. Yeah, see how it plays?
Yeah.
It all comes together. Over, under. I got 48.5 right now.
Over.
It's going over.
Over. And I think the sharps are all heavy on that as well.
Kelsey versus A.J. Brown receiving yards. A.J. Brown. Marquise Hollywood, Oklahoma Brown versus Devontae, Alabama Smith.
Hollywood.
Mahomes versus Hurts in passing yards, with the caveat, just so you know, Hurts outthrew him by over 100 yards in the last Super Bowl.
Yeah, he only threw for like 250, like
187,
low
187 to like 304.
Hurts again.
Hurts is going to outthrow him because they're going to be down.
Correct.
So
I'm not
passes
entirely
him in the fourth.
Yes.
Interesting takes. I'm going to put a final point on this. I'll let you comment on this statement. The difference in the game the last time around when these two teams played was a very controversial holding call that happens every game. Sometimes it does get called. I'm not saying it was completely illegitimate. Sometimes that grab off the line of scrimmage does get called, but oftentimes it does not. And in that situation, I agree with Greg Olson, the announcer, who did a very good job in that Super Bowl at noting that at that time and place, that call probably shouldn't happen. That was his sentiment. And by the way, it didn't. I still think the field goal would have gotten off. You'd have just got to see Jalen Hurts have his option to come back because there'd have been a minute and a half left, or a little bit more than that. And Jalen Hurts fumbles in the second quarter. Non-contact fumble, right? So this wasn't a forced fumble. Non-contact fumble.
A dumb mistake.
Exactly. Just a bad bonehead mistake. So the question is Jalen Hurts, 2 years older, 2 years more mature, going to take care of the ball better? And are these two young corners in positions where they don't have to grab because they're just as athletic and just as quick off the line of scrimmage as the other two? In years past, I would have said yes, but you made a very good point. We're not talking about years past. We're talking about Xavier Worthy, one of the fastest men in football, and DeAndre Hopkins, still a premium wide receiver. They were not on this team when they met last time in Super Bowl 57. So I am going to say that this game is going to be deadlocked down to the wire. And I'm going to say that it's Patrick Mahomes that turns the ball over this time.
Interesting.
And the Philadelphia Eagles win on, I think he's going to turn the ball over on a final 5-minute drive that changes the game. That's my fairy tale ending for all of us who think that he's been trying to be nominated for an Academy Award all season.
Well, in one respect, I hope you're right, which is deadlocked. We're playing a parlay with a ton of legs and no unders. Overtime would be fabulous. You always want overtime in this game.
I honestly think we could be looking at it a la, the big comeback that Tom Brady led against the Atlanta Falcons. We talked about that being the greatest Super Bowl comeback of all time. And that overtime touchdown, if you remember, was a 5-point spread that got over 6. He not only won the game being down 3 touchdowns plus, but he covered the spread. Tom Brady covers the spread.
quick recap here, okay? $220 investment, total winnings, if we hit both the TD score and the traditional, would be $12,820. So we would have hit our goal. That's an ROI of 5,727%. Quick bonus bet. And I'll give you, I already shared you on this, so I don't know if you want to put a graphic up or just share it on your social. Quick bonus bet. This is the most bet Super Bowl market so far, like through everything. This is at least on FanDuel Sportsbook. Passing and rushing TD in each half. At least yesterday, you get it at plus 190. I think that's a really nice bet as well. It just doesn't really work I don't think you could tack that on in a parlay in my system. Also, fourth time, two QBs have met for the second time in the Super Bowl with their same teams. The winning QB has won that second match every time, including Eli over Tom Brady.
Another Mahomes and another Eli reference.
Kiss my grits.
That's your grits. First brand that will be featured in a commercial at the first commercial break after kickoff. Let's be very specific.
Isn't this already determined? Like somebody could just know this?
But you don't, do you son of a bitch? Okay, so answer the damn question. All right? This isn't a Senate hearing.
I'll go, do movie trailers count?
If it's an advertisement, then it's the studio of that movie that is the brand.
I don't know who's really. I'll say Budweiser.
Cam, thank you. Wham Bam, thank you, Cam. Comes in with Doritos. Doritos.
Oh, I'm familiar.
For those of you who are in Florida, it's Doritos.
Yeah, Tom, Mar-a-Lago.
I'm going to go with Procter & Gamble because they own every other company in America.
That's a horse shit.
It is, but that's how you do it. That's how you cover a lot of ground.
Okay.
But no. Seriously, I'll say I'm going to be very boring here. I'm going to go with Crest. Throw a toothpaste out there, right?
Take care of your clackers.
Okay,
everybody.
so the greatest. So we also experienced a lot of bullshit since the last time we spoke. Carson Beck transferring to Miami to hang out with his girlfriend, who's got a big NIL deal. Go Canes, yeah. We don't know what Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning. Who gives a shit? The Luka Doncic trade out of nowhere. Guy buys a $15 million pad, finds out that he's going to be moving to L.A. Mark Cuban knows nothing about it. He's been separated from basketball operations there. So the Adelson family, very close, one of the biggest benefactors of the Trump administration, the Adelson family, decides with Nico Harrison that they are going to, and Jason Kidd, although Kidd thinks, most people say Kidd had no idea that this was going to happen either. This was between Pelinka, Michigan man, Lakers GM, and Harrison, the Dallas Mavericks GM. What's your take on this trade? Give me the quick.
I think we're going to find out more. Obviously, it's just too bonkers to not have layers, and I think this is total conjecture. I will say allegedly. We know it's the weight thing. I think it's a little bit bigger than that. I think there might be some late night activities with him. Whether it's booze or drugs or something. Just because
I don't think so.
Well, think about that. Hold on. This is. They fired a bunch of his friends on the staff over the last 2 months. They've slowly been clipping these dudes who are or people who were confidants of his, kind of his party friends. And then there's that clip that I can't get out of my head of who was it? One of the assistant coaches taking a beer out of his hand in the locker room post game. Have you ever seen this clip?
I haven't. I go down a lot of rabbit holes. His name is Doncic, and in The Godfather, you had Don Cheech. So there's a lot of conspiracy.
Tie this together for me.
I'm not going to because I like to just throw shit out there and see what
Dangling
the interwebs
the
do with it. I'll also say that I believe that you follow the money in these situations. Almost always, when something doesn't make sense, you follow the money. The Adelsons are in a total maelstrom in the state of Texas trying to get this gambling casino entertainment development. Remember, this is a casino family. They got the big deal in Macau. They got the Sheldon Adelson owned CES, the computer convention, the electronics convention. He sold that, made a bunch of money, bought the Sands, went into the casino empire, built up his empire. This family now owns the Dallas Mavericks. They want to do an entertainment / casino complex in Dallas. The state of Texas is not having it. Oh, so you don't want us to build what we think we should rightfully be able to build? We'll tank the team until you give us permission to build what we want.
That's an aggressive.
Follow the money. Follow the money. You want to have a winner in Dallas? Give us what we want in the real estate rezoning and approving of a gaming institution in downtown Dallas. Think about it. Don Cheech.
Are you on meth?
Well, some have said that I have meth-like projections.
Let's see if you can hang with this thread, this pattern. Okay. It's a little less nefarious than yours.
Speed it up, you son of a bitch.
Again, look at this. Go find this clip of an adult taking another adult's beer out of his hand in the locker room post game when nobody else was drinking. It's really fucking weird. He's got this bloat that he can't seem to shake. His weight's all over the place. And then the most odd thing of all of it is they don't send him out into the market. They do a backdoor deal in the middle of the night, out of nowhere, with one team, where every single person who knows anything about the sport, and I don't know much, but I've listened, says if they just say Luka Doncic is available, they could have gotten 5 first-rounders. Like the number this is such a weird trade. They don't even know where to set the number as far as what they could have gotten. He's that good.
And again, following the money, you have no idea what went on between these two families. Adelson family, obviously strong connections in Southern California, the Buss family, and you have no idea what other contingency factors might be in play in a deal of this size. People forget these humans are enterprises. Right? Luka Doncic is an enterprise unto himself. He is a multi-$100 million enterprise unto himself. His impact on a market, the name, image, and likeness, the memorabilia sales, the gear, the apparel deals. There's a lot of money at stake in these deals. So I'll let you finish there, but then I want to hear your other best trades.
I would say this one thing. I can't remember. I wish I could attribute it to who I heard say it. It was an expert, though. They said, or it still wouldn't have made sense if LA would have thrown in LeBron James. It still would have been a better deal to get Doncic. So it's just fucking nuts.
It is. Best trades, though. Give me your Mount Rushmore.
Babe Ruth.
Oh, shit. Red Sox had won 5 World Series over like 15 to 17 years. They don't win another one for like 100 years, and the Yankees run off a run of 27 World Championships. In case you were counting.
Unbelievable. I would say Gretzky pops into my head to the Kings.
Sure. Kings go right to the cup. They didn't win it, but he took them to a cup when they were a dog.
Oh, yeah, that's true. They didn't win. On a personal level, I mentioned this to you, Rasheed Wallace. Plugging Rasheed Wallace into that Pistons team, I've never quite seen an unlocking or a perfect fit more than that. And what was their defensive run, holding teams under 60?
No, they hold them under 80.
Is that too low? 70?
80 is the one that they use as a marker for the NBA. How many games did you hold a team under 80?
They did it like 12 games in a row or some shit like that. And
I think after he got there, they almost averaged around 80 in points given up.
And on the offensive end too, it just opened up everything. They kind of ran through everybody. They, for all intents and purposes, swept the Kobe Shaq Lakers in the finals, and they go out the next year and Duncan and Big Shot Bob hits that 3 on Rasheed, funnily enough, and then after that the NBA decided that LeBron James was going to get to the finals no matter what happened, and they moved the ball on us again, just like they did with Jordan. That's why I don't watch the NBA and I don't care about Luka Doncic.
Definitely,
I'm not bitter.
Rewired the NBA rules and guidelines. I'm going to go with Stafford and Goff to keep another one close to that. That's a great trade for the Rams. They win the Super Bowl immediately, so they get immediate cash dividends. Brad Holmes, as I mentioned, Darth Vader, Thanos. He doesn't just get Jared Goff, who has been an All-Pro now, and taken the team to its two best seasons in the modern era. He turns the 3 picks that he got in 22, 23, and the second pick, the third round pick, he turns those 3 picks into 6 players. Jahmyr Gibbs, All-Pro this year. Sam Laporta, All-Pro this year. J-Mo, pretty good ceiling on J-Mo. Pascal, who had to start many times this year. Melifonwu, who also got serious playing time. The only one who hasn't panned out at all, was on the IR all year, was Broderick Martin. But across the board, he rebuilds an organization with one trade.
There's mutterings that Kupp is headed back to pair with Jared Goff again.
I've heard the rumblings, and don't sleep on Matthew Stafford. He not only has won a Super Bowl, he's had them in the playoffs. He's still slinging it. He's still got some of the greatest arm talent in the NFL. Trade worked out great for both sides. Lastly, on this Mount Rushmore, because spring is in the air, we're 3 weeks away from pitchers and catchers reporting to Lakeland, Florida. Your Detroit Tigers, who came out of nowhere and had one of the great runs in the second half of the season to make the playoffs last year. Heartbreaking defeat, but we're right there fighting for it all. The last time that they won the World Series was 1984. Just before that season started in March of 1984, Tom Monahan and Sparky Anderson sat down and they realized that they were one player short, and that was a closer. And they went out and got the sweet Mexican afro of Guillermo Willie Hernandez. Don't call him Willie. From the Philadelphia Phillies. They also, people forget, got Dave Bergman in that trade, who ended up being the regular first baseman on that team and a hell of a clutch hitter. He batted .275 in 84. For Glenn Wilson and John Walkenfuss. Walkenfuss, one of the greatest names in the history of baseball, but that doesn't count on the scoreboard. So Willie Hernandez and the 84 Tigers run off the greatest 40-game start in Major League Baseball history. They go 35-5 in 1984 and win the World Series. I put that at the top from my own childhood of the greatest trades of all time. A.J. Hinch is going to try to do it again here. He's got a little bit of pitcher by committee, but he goes out and he picks up Flaherty in free agency. Now it's going to be Tarek Skubal, Jack Flaherty coming back, Reese Olson, Alex Cobb, and in the 5th slot, you've got 3 number ones fighting for the 5th spot. Number 1 picks, Job, Mize, and Manning are all going to be fighting for the 5th spot. Outside of the Dodgers, which are in another planet, best pitching staff possibly in baseball is going to be your Detroit Tigers. They are still looking for a closer. They went and picked up Canely.
Guillermo, is he still active? Can they bring him back?
Guillermo cannot. I hope he's with us. I hope he's not resting in peace. I hope Guillermo's still with us. They went and picked up Tommy Canely. They're talking to Alex Bregman, trying to bring him in for another bat. But the 3 guys who are out there for the Tigers to put a closer in the rotation, in the bullpen, not in the rotation, are Carlos Estevez, Kenley Jansen, and Kyle Finnegan. We'll see if the Illiches make one more deal before the break to get your Tigers back into the promised land.
Couple of quick things. I'm helping you here, so you don't get canceled. Willie Hernandez was Puerto Rican, not Mexican. We love our Puerto Rican
but
friends.
He had a Mexican. I was talking about his afro. His afro was Mexican. He bought that. That was a piece. It was a piece.
You can't walk that back for you. You're definitely canceled. And sadly, he died November 20th, 2023. Rips.
Oh, I remember that now. I wonder if we should edit that, or I should just mea culpa for Willie. God bless his beautiful soul. God bless his beautiful soul. Bless you, boys. Bless you, boys. Patrick, I can't thank you enough. Paddy, Parlay Paddy, you got the pick. But this has been a wonderfully produced and amateurish presentation and a god-awfully researched podcast from GOATQuest. Please, ladies and gentlemen, go out there and be the GOAT at whatever it is that you're doing today.